In 1612, a woman's scream rips through a Prague alchemist's workshop as her face is forced against a blistering iron dipped in molten silver. The crowd gathered in the doorway doesn't stop it. They paid to witness this, because she asked for it. And somehow that isn't even the most disturbing part. By the end of this video, you'll uncover 3 beauty rituals so horrifying that historians tried to erase them from existence. I'm talking about the white cosmetic paste that rotted Queen Elizabeth I's skull while she was still alive. The eye drops that blinded 37 women in 1 year, and they kept using them anyway. And yes, the silver treatment that permanently scarred noblewomen's faces pitch black. But here's the part that will truly crawl under your skin. The 4th method I'm exposing today is still legal in 12 countries. And you might have the ingredients sitting in your bathroom cabinet right now. Hit that subscribe button because if you think modern beauty standards are toxic, you haven't seen anything yet. And trust me, stay for method number 3, because the truth about molten silver isn't what you think. It's far, far worse. Let's go back to where this nightmare begins. Imagine yourself in 1550s Venice. You're walking through the Piazza San Marco, and you can instantly tell who belongs to nobility without seeing their clothes. It's their skin. The wealthy look like porcelain dolls, ghost white, almost glowing. The peasants? Sunburned, freckled, alive. And that was the problem. In Renaissance Europe, pale skin wasn't just fashionable. It was armor. Tan skin meant you worked outdoors. You toiled in the fields. You were disposable. But white skin, skin that screamed wealth, rank, power, meant you had never touched earth with your bare hands. And women would do anything to achieve that dead pale look. And I mean anything. The beauty manuals from this era read more like torture guides than cosmetics advice. They recommended everything from lead paints to mercury mixtures to arsenic applications. And women used these poisons every single day for years, watching themselves fade away in their mirrors. But here's what most people never hear about Renaissance beauty culture. These women knew the products were killing them. Physicians wrote entire treatises about the beauty death. They tracked its stages. First the shaking, then the hair falling out, then the teeth loosening, then the skin turning gray, then the madness, then finally merciful death. The average lifespan for a noblewoman who regularly used cosmetics? 37 years. So why didn't they stop? Because anything was better than looking common. Better to die beautiful at 37 than live ugly to 60. Now let me walk you through exactly how they created this deadly perfection. Starting with the product that killed more women than any illness of the age. Method number 1, Venetian Sirrus. The foundation that literally melted your face off. Picture a 16-year-old noblewoman preparing for her debut ball. Her maid brings her a small ceramic pot filled with a white paste that smells sharply of vinegar. She brushes it across the girl's skin, layer after layer, until her real face disappears beneath an ivory mask. What the girl doesn't know, or maybe does know but chooses to ignore, is that she's coating her skin with a mixture of white lead, mercury, and arsenic. The Venetian Sirrus formula published in Giovanni Marinello's 1562 beauty manual, The Ornaments of Women, contained enough poison to kill a horse. But it worked. Her face glows, perfect, luminous, unreal. Here's what happens next, and this is where it turns truly monstrous. The lead in Ceruse is caustic. It burns. After only a few applications, small sores appear around the nose and jawline. Her maid assures her this is normal, that it means the paste is purifying the skin. So what does she do? She applies even more ceruse to hide the wounds. But ceruse can't seep into healthy skin. It needs broken flesh. Those sores are her death sentence. Lead floods directly into the bloodstream through the torn skin, and she creates fresh entry points every single morning. Within 6 months, she develops tremors. Within a year, she loses hair. Within 2, her teeth loosen and fall out. Within 3, she slips into lead poison madness, hallucinating, hearing voices, unraveling. And if you think that's exaggerated, let's talk about the most famous ceruse victim in history, Queen Elizabeth I of England. She began using Venetian Sirrus at 29 after a smallpox outbreak scarred her skin. By 40, she was applying it nearly an inch thick every day. By 60, her face had essentially decayed beneath the makeup. Her ladies-in-waiting recorded that when she removed her cosmetics at night, chunks of skin came off with it. Her face was a map of open wounds that never healed. The lead had eaten through her skin all the way down to the bone in certain places. She died at 69 looking ancient, bald, toothless, her face shriveled into something closer to a skull than a queen. Her autopsy revealed catastrophic lead destruction in every organ system. But at least ceruse stayed on the surface of the skin, right? Method number 2 went far deeper. And the most disturbing part, women begged for it. Don't click away because what I'm about to show you explains exactly why doe eyes became the beauty standard every man desired. Imagine staring into someone's eyes and seeing pupils so enormous and dark that almost no color remains. Glassy, hypnotic, beautiful in a way that feels slightly wrong. Welcome to Belladonna beauty. Belladonna literally means beautiful woman in Italian, and it's one of Europe's most toxic plants. 3 berries can kill an adult. But Renaissance women weren't eating it. They were dripping its juice straight into their eyes. Here's why. When you apply belladonna extract to your eyes, it paralyzes your iris muscles. Your pupils expand to their widest point and stay there. Under candlelight, this creates the illusion of impossibly emotional, vulnerable eyes. Men found it irresistible. There was only one tiny issue. In 1595, Venetian physicians documented 37 cases of permanent blindness among noblewomen, all from belladonna use, all within a single year. That's only the official count. The real number was likely 10 times higher. Let me walk you through what belladonna actually does to your eyes, because this is genuine nightmare fuel. When you drop the extract onto your eye, it blocks your acetylcholine receptors. Your pupils blow wide open and can't contract again. Suddenly, you lose the ability to control how much light enters your eye. Picture walking from a dark room into bright sunlight and your pupils never shrinking. The pain is excruciating. You're basically staring into the sun without any protection. Women who used belladonna regularly had to avoid daylight completely. They lived cocooned in darkness, only emerging for evening gatherings. But here's the sickest part. They kept using it even after they began going partially blind. Even after the migraines became unbearable. Even after they couldn't clearly see their own reflections anymore. What? Because of what I call the beauty addiction cycle. You use belladonna for a ball. Men praise your haunting eyes. You feel beautiful, admired, powerful. 3 days later, your vision is still hazy, but another event is coming. Do you skip the drops and look ordinary? Or do you apply them again, accept the damage, and chase that same validation? You already know what thousands of women chose. Estate records show some noblewomen spent the modern equivalent of $50,000 per year on belladonna drops. They became physically and psychologically addicted to a toxin that was stealing their sight. But here's what matters most. These women chose this poison. They knew the dangers and decided beauty was worth blindness. The silver method was different. Those women had no choice at all. And the truth about what occurred is far worse than the myth of molten silver. If you're still watching, you clearly have the stomach for dark history. Good. Because method number 3 is where this stops being tragic and starts being criminal. Let's clear something up right now. Women were not dunked into molten silver. That's a myth. A mistranslation. A horrifying chain of historical telephone. The truth? It's actually worse. In the early 1600s, alchemists across Central Europe became obsessed with silver compounds as anti-aging miracles. Silver nitrate, specifically a corrosive chemical that burns organic tissue on contact. Their logic was wild, but it made sense in a world without real science. Silver doesn't tarnish quickly, so they believed that infusing skin with silver would slow its aging. Perfect logic, if you don't understand chemistry. In 1612, a beautician named Johann Conrad Dippel was put on trial in Prague for manslaughter. His crime? Convincing 12 noble women to undergo his argentum treatment, a silver infusion promising eternal youth. Here's what he actually did, according to court testimony. You're a 35-year-old countess terrified of aging. Dippel promises a miracle. You pay him the equivalent of $80,000. He seats you in his laboratory, straps your head in place, and begins brushing concentrated silver nitrate across your face. At first, nothing. Then, after 30 seconds, you feel a burning tingle. Then it becomes agony, like your entire face is on fire. You scream. He insists this is normal, that the silver is bonding with your skin. But here's what's really happening. Silver nitrate is a powerful oxidizer. It is literally burning through your skin cells, sinking deep into your dermis. And when silver compounds are exposed to light, they undergo a photochemical shift. They turn black. Within 48 hours, your face begins to darken. Within a week, you develop permanent black stains across your cheeks, forehead, and nose, precisely where Dippel brushed the highest concentration. Within a month, your entire face looks bruised, mottled, nightmarish. And there is no cure. The silver has bonded to your skin at a molecular level. You will look like this for the rest of your life. Of the 12 women Dippel treated, 3 died by suicide before the year ended. 5 entered convents and spent the rest of their lives hidden behind veils. 4 sued him, which finally led to his trial and execution. But Dippel wasn't the only one. Court archives from Vienna, Munich, and Prague document at least 50 similar cases between 1605 and 1620. The practice didn't stop because anyone cared about the victims. It stopped because the resulting disfigurement was so visible and so permanent that it became impossible to conceal. This is the truth behind the molten silver myth. Not women being dipped into liquid metal like some medieval horror story, but something far more insidious. A chemical torture marketed as a beauty treatment and sold to desperate women who trusted the wrong man. Now, I know what you're thinking. At least we're past that barbaric era. At least modern cosmetics are safe. I have some very bad news for you. But before we get there, let me tell you about the woman who made every treatment I've mentioned so far look almost merciful. Because method number 4 isn't a cosmetic. It's mass murder disguised as skincare, and it inspired every vampire legend you've ever heard. In 1610, Hungarian officials raided Cactus Castle and uncovered something so horrifying that it was suppressed for nearly 2 centuries. The owner, Countess Elizabeth Bathory, had tortured and murdered roughly 650 young women over a 25-year span. Her motive? Eternal beauty. Let me be absolutely clear. Elizabeth Bathory was not a myth or a vampire. She was a real woman from one of Europe's most powerful noble families who genuinely believed that bathing in the blood of virgin girls would preserve her youth. And for more than 2 decades, no one stopped her because she was too wealthy, too connected, too untouchable. The trial testimonies are almost unbearable to read. Her servants, tortured into confessing, described an organized system. Bathory's accomplices would lure peasant girls to the castle with promises of work. Once inside, the girls were locked in the dungeon. When Bathory wanted a beauty treatment, a girl was brought to her chamber, hung upside down, her throat cut, and her blood drained into a large basin. Then Bathory would step into the still warm blood, believing it would soak into her skin and restore her youth. When investigators finally stormed the castle, they found bodies in varying states of decay. Some had been there for years. The dungeon floors were stained black with dried blood. But here's the most disturbing part. Bathory's belief wasn't unique. Blood bathing was an actual beauty theory discussed in elite circles. Multiple Renaissance beauty manuals recommended virgin's blood as a topical youth treatment. Bathory simply took the idea to the most extreme, most literal, and most monstrous conclusion. She was not a lone psychopath. She was the inevitable product of a culture teaching women their worth diminished with age, and that any sacrifice, no matter how horrific, was justified to preserve beauty. Bathory's 1611 trial became a spectacle. Her servants were executed publicly. But Bathory herself was too powerful to kill. Executing her would disgrace her noble lineage and destabilize regional politics. So authorities chose a different punishment. They bricked her up alive inside her own castle. Workers sealed the windows and door of her bedchamber, leaving only a small slot for food and water. She lived in darkness for 4 years, dying in 1614. When they finally opened the chamber, witnesses said she looked ancient, withered, gray-haired, unrecognizable. All that blood had bought her nothing. Modern archaeological digs at Cactus Castle have confirmed much of the testimony. They found the torture chamber, the drainage channels for blood, and skeletal remains showing signs of systematic abuse. Elizabeth Bathory was real. Her crimes were real. And her motives, twisted as they were, grew directly from a beauty culture pushed to its darkest possible extreme. But here's the part history classes never mention. Her story didn't end with her death. It echoed. Bathory's blood rituals directly inspired Bram Stoker's Dracula, Sheridan Le Fanu's Carmilla, and nearly every vampire myth in European folklore. The idea of aristocrats draining youth from innocent victims. That is pure Bathory. She transformed from historical monster into cultural myth because her story exposed an uncomfortable truth about beauty itself. When you convince people that aging equals worthlessness, some will do anything, absolutely anything, even commit atrocities just to escape it. And that brings us to the question you should be asking right now. So, what did we actually learn? Between 1550 and 1700, an estimated 15,000 European women died directly from cosmetic poisoning. Lead, mercury, arsenic, belladonna. These weren't fringe experiments. They were mainstream beauty standards. And before you breathe a sigh of relief, believing we've evolved beyond that barbarism by 2023, the FDA tested 49 popular lipstick brands. They found detectable lead in 47 of them. 22 contained enough to exceed safety limits for children. Skin lightening creams laced with mercury are still sold in 12 countries, despite being internationally banned. Women across parts of Asia, Africa, and Latin America are still using the same mercury compounds that killed Renaissance noblewomen. Because pale skin remains tied to wealth and status, the names have changed. We call it methylmercury instead of mercury sublimate. We say lead acetate instead of white lead. But the poison? It's the same. We haven't actually learned anything. So here's my question for you, and I want you to genuinely think about it. What modern beauty standard would you risk your life for? Botox that could leave your face paralyzed? Fillers that can trigger tissue necrosis? Tanning beds that practically guarantee skin cancer? Brazilian butt lifts with a 1 in 300 chance of killing you? Because here's the uncomfortable truth that links Renaissance courtiers to modern cosmetics. The standards shift, but the desperation never does. We still teach people, especially women, that their worth is rooted in their appearance. And as long as that message exists, some will continue poisoning themselves, just to reach impossible expectations. The faces staring back in the mirror may be different, but the toxins beneath the paint haven't changed nearly as much as we want to believe. Drop a comment below. What modern beauty standard do you think is the most dangerous? And what product would you stop using if you knew it was toxic? If this video unsettled you the way it should have, check out my next piece on Victorian poison fashion. Deadly cosmetics were only the beginning. Women were literally wearing arsenic in their dresses. Thanks for watching. And maybe, just maybe, check the ingredients on your makeup before you use it tomorrow. Hit subscribe, because history's darkest secrets are always hiding in plain sight.